Certainly. Here's a 500-word story based on the topic. 7 things older women can do to attract men. Psychology amazing facts. Told in a narrative style that highlights both emotional insight and psychology-based truths. On the edge of a lake in the quiet town of Windermere lived a woman named Celeste. At 62, she had no interest in pretending to be younger than she was. She wore her silver hair like a crown, her laugh lines as if they were medals of honor. Yet she carried an unmistakable spark, one that made people turn their heads when she entered a room. One day, over coffee with her friend Julia, a recently divorced woman in her 50s, the conversation turned to dating. "Do you ever think about falling in love again?" Julia asked, a bit sheepishly. Celeste smiled. "Love doesn't have an expiration date, but attracting the right kind of man takes more than makeup or a gym membership. It's mostly psychology, how we carry ourselves, not just what we wear." Julia leaned in. "Tell me everything." Celeste counted them off with her fingers. 1. Be authentically you. Pretending to be someone else is exhausting, and men sense it. Confidence in your identity is deeply attractive. 2. Show emotional maturity. Older women have the edge here. We've learned how to listen, when to speak, and when to walk away. That balance? Irresistible. 3. Cultivate passion. Whether it's travel, painting, or learning Italian, being passionate makes you radiant. Passion is magnetic. 4. Take care of yourself. For you. It's not about wrinkle creams. It's about energy. Walk, eat well, sleep enough. When you glow with self-respect, others feel it. 5. Be playful and lighthearted. Too many people forget how to flirt, tease, or laugh at themselves. A sense of humor shows openness, and openness is inviting. 6. Don't chase, attract. Psychology tells us people value what they choose, not what's forced on them. Hold your worth. Let the right man lean in. 7. Be genuinely interested in others. Curiosity is underrated. Ask about their stories, dreams, fears. Deep interest creates deep connection. Julia listened with wide eyes, scribbling notes on a napkin. "Where did you learn all this?" she asked. Celeste smiled softly. "From living, from falling in love and falling apart, from realizing that the most attractive thing about any woman, young or old, is how at peace she is with herself." Later that week, Julia wore her favorite dress, not for anyone else, but because it made her feel alive. She walked into a bookstore, struck up a conversation with a man browsing poetry, and for the first time in years, didn't overthink a single word. She was present, calm, curious. As they chatted, she noticed something remarkable. He wasn't just responding, he was drawn to her. Maybe Celeste was right. Maybe attraction at this stage wasn't about trying harder, but about letting go of what never really mattered. And maybe, just maybe, the second chapter was going to be even better than the first. Would you like a short, 2-sentence voiceover version of this story to promote the topic? Absolutely. Here's a 500-word continuation that deepens the narrative and explores how Margaret's wisdom begins to influence the women around her. In the weeks that followed, Margaret's quiet wisdom began to ripple through the town of Maplehurst, like sunlight breaking through morning fog. Lily wasn't the only one who had been moved. The book club, once a casual gathering of plot debates and light gossip, gradually transformed into something richer. Each meeting now included a segment called Margaret Moments, where the older women of the group shared pieces of hard-earned life insight. What started as admiration became something more powerful: mentorship. Women of all ages began opening up about their insecurities, about crow's feet, about not feeling seen anymore, about struggling to feel relevant in a world obsessed with youth. Margaret never lectured. Instead, she listened first. She taught by example, wearing bold red lipstick without apology, sporting her silver hair in an elegant chignon, and walking through the market with purpose. Her presence reminded people that age was not a burden, but a badge. And with each story she shared, more women began reclaiming parts of themselves they had silenced or hidden for years. One woman, Evelyn, had stopped painting after her divorce 2 decades earlier. "I always thought that part of me belonged to my younger self," she confessed one night. Margaret encouraged her to pick up the brush again, not to be great, but to be whole. A month later, Evelyn brought a small canvas to book club, a vivid sunset over the Maplehurst Hills. Her hands trembled as she showed it, but her eyes gleamed with pride. Another woman, Jen, had never felt comfortable dressing up. She always said, "I'm too old to be noticed." Margaret gently challenged her, "Or maybe you're just old enough to not care what others think." Jen arrived at the next gathering wearing a flowing scarf and a bold necklace. When someone complimented her, she didn't deflect. She said thank you, and meant it. Younger women, like Lily, began leaning into authenticity instead of trends. Social media still tugged at them with its filtered images and polished illusions, but the raw honesty of Margaret's generation offered something far more nourishing. Real beauty, real depth, real connection. One evening, Margaret hosted a tea in her garden. Lanterns flickered in the fading light, and the soft buzz of bees still lingered in the air. Women of every age gathered, sitting cross-legged on cushions and sipping from mismatched china cups. There was no agenda, just stories, laughter, and the occasional shared tear. Looking around, Lily realized something profound. This wasn't just a gathering. It was a reclaiming of identity, of confidence, of visibility. Margaret had not just inspired them, she had reminded them of what was already there. As twilight deepened and the stars emerged overhead, Margaret raised her cup and smiled. "Aging isn't about fading away," she said softly. "It's about shining in a different kind of light." And in that moment, surrounded by kindred spirits and newfound courage, every woman in the garden glowed. Would you like a short 2-sentence voiceover teaser pulled from this expanded story? Certainly. Here's a 200-word paragraph to further develop the story and give it a gentle closing arc. As summer settled into Maplehurst, the women who had once kept quiet about their age began speaking of it with pride. Margaret's garden gatherings became a cherished tradition, not just for conversation, but for transformation. There was a sense of sisterhood now, young and old sharing not just space, but wisdom. Women who once passed each other on the street with polite nods now stopped to talk, to laugh, to connect. Age was no longer something to hide. It had become a mark of story, of strength, of survival. Even the local cafe began displaying a quote above its counter: "Beauty deepens with time." And when strangers asked who said it, the baristas would simply smile and say, "A woman who reminds us how to live." Margaret never asked for credit. She simply tended her roses, offered her presence, and lived her truth. And in doing so, she helped countless others do the same. The town had changed, not because something new had arrived, but because something old and long forgotten had been remembered. That a woman becomes more radiant, more powerful, and more deeply attractive with every year she learns to love herself exactly as she is. Would you like a short voiceover version of this final sentiment?